Welcome back, everyone. You're tuned in to the English Core podcast. I'm Elsie.
And I'm Evelyn. And today, I have to say, we're diving into a topic that I think is going to hit close to home for a lot of people.
Really close to home. We're talking about social anxiety. But, and this is the part I love, we're not just talking about, oh, it's tough, here's a tip. No, we're going to look at it through a completely different lens.
A philosophical lens. We're calling today's topic social alchemy.
Okay, so alchemy. Most people know it as that ancient practice where people were obsessed with turning lead into gold, right? Like, literally, base metals into precious ones.
Which, yes, sounds kind of ridiculous in hindsight. But here's the thing, the metaphor is actually brilliant, because what we're talking about today is doing that same transformation, but inside your own mind. Taking the heavy, suffocating weight of social anxiety, the lead, and transmuting it into something called intellectual calm, the gold.
And I think what makes this conversation so interesting is how we usually talk about anxiety. We treat it like a bug, like something is malfunctioning in your brain and you need to fix it or medicate it or just white-knuckle your way through it.
Exactly. And what if that framing is completely wrong?
What if it's not broken software, but raw material?
Right. The alchemist doesn't throw away the lead, they work with it. And that's the shift we want to explore today.
So let's start at the very beginning. Where does social anxiety actually come from? Because I think once you understand the why, everything else clicks.
So here's the thing. Social anxiety is not a personal failing. It is not a character flaw. It is an evolutionary inheritance. For the vast majority of human history, our survival literally depended on being accepted by our group, our tribe. If you got kicked out, that meant predators, that meant starvation, that meant death.
So your brain evolved to be hypervigilant about your social standing because rejection wasn't just embarrassing, it was lethal.
Exactly. And there's a specific part of the brain responsible for this, the amygdala. It's your brain's threat detection center. And when you walk into a room full of people and suddenly your heart is racing and your palms are sweating, that's your amygdala firing. It is flooding your system with adrenaline and cortisol.
Because your brain thinks you're in a life or death tribal tribunal, not just a dinner party.
Right. Your body's reacting to a networking event the same way it would react to a predator on the savannah. And that seems absurd, but it makes complete biological sense.
And this is where the first alchemical step comes in, what we'd call cognitive distancing. Because the untrained mind, when anxiety hits, immediately spirals. Something is wrong with me, I'm failing at this, everyone is watching.
But the alchemical mind, the trained mind, steps back and observes. It says, okay, my nervous system is running an outdated evolutionary program right now. I'm experiencing a cortisol spike. My brain mistakenly believes my survival is at stake. You are stepping out of the storm and into the quiet observatory of your own mind.
You stop feeling the emotion and start observing it. And that is the very beginning of intellectual calm.
Okay, so let's talk about something called the spotlight effect, because I think this is the piece that most anxious people have never had named for them.
Oh, this one is so real.
So the spotlight effect is this cognitive bias where we dramatically overestimate how much other people are noticing us. Our mistakes, our awkward pauses, the thing we said 5 minutes ago that we're now mentally replaying on a loop.
When you're anxious, you are trapped in the claustrophobic theater of your own mind, watching a highly critical live review of your own performance. You are not actually present in the conversation.
And here's the paradox. People who are socially anxious are often incredibly perceptive and empathetic. They notice everything. But all of that perception is being turned inward, against themselves. It's being wasted.
So the transformation, the alchemy, is taking that incredibly powerful spotlight and physically rotating it outward.
And there's a mindset that does this beautifully. Imagine entering a social gathering not as someone who's waiting to be judged, but as a cultural anthropologist stepping into a fascinating new environment.
An anthropologist doesn't walk into a situation worrying about whether the people they're studying think they're cool.
Right. Their entire objective is curiosity. They observe, they listen, they analyze. Who is this person? What motivates them? Why did they choose that specific word? And when you adopt that mindset, something remarkable happens. The pressure to perform just evaporates.
And here's the neuroscience behind it. It is literally impossible to be intensely curious and intensely anxious at the exact same moment. Curiosity is externally focused. It pulls you toward things. Anxiety is internally focused. It pushes you away from things. You cannot be in both states simultaneously.
So by actively choosing curiosity, you are rewriting your brain's immediate response to social situations. You drain the fuel from the anxiety.
Now, we've talked about understanding the anxiety, shifting perception, but we also need a philosophical backbone, and this is where Stoicism enters the picture.
Think of Stoicism as the alchemist's fire, the heat that melts down the base elements so transformation can happen. And the core principle is something called the dichotomy of control.
It's simple but powerful. There are things in life you can control, and things you absolutely cannot. In any social interaction, what can you control? Your posture, your intent, the words you choose, how well you listen. That's it.
What can you not control? The other person's mood, their biases, their past experiences that have nothing to do with you, their opinion of you.
And social anxiety thrives on the illusion that if we just perform perfectly enough, we can control what others think of us. That's the trap.
But the Stoic mind accepts, deeply, genuinely accepts, that other people's minds are sovereign territory. You have no jurisdiction there. And if someone misinterprets your comment or simply doesn't click with your personality, the anxious mind sees it as a catastrophe. The Stoic mind sees it as a mathematical probability.
In a world of 8 billion vastly different human beings, you will not align with everyone. That's not failure. That's just statistics.
And when you truly let go of the need to control other people's perceptions, a massive amount of mental energy gets freed up. You are no longer playing this exhausting multidimensional chess game of, what are they thinking? How should I respond? Did that land wrong? You just show up. You offer your authentic self, and you let the chips fall where they may.
And that radical acceptance, that is the fire that burns away the performative behavior, the people-pleasing, the mask.
All right, so we've got the philosophy. But let's talk about what this actually looks like in the real nerve-wracking, sweaty-palmed moment of a conversation.
Yes, please. What does intellectual calm look like when your heart is pounding?
So there are some really specific conversational mechanics here. The first one, and this is counterintuitive, is embracing the pause. The anxious person is always rushing to fill silence because silence feels like failure, like everyone is suddenly judging you.
But the intellectually calm person, silence is breathing room. It's not a threat. It's the space where real thoughts get processed.
And the second mechanic is something called the Socratic method of conversation. Instead of worrying about being interesting, you focus entirely on being interested. You ask open-ended questions. You probe.
Like someone shares an opinion, and instead of immediately scrambling to agree or disagree, the calm person asks, "That's a fascinating perspective. What life experiences led you to see it that way?"
And that question does two things at once. One, it completely takes the pressure off you. You're not the entertainer anymore. You're the interviewer. Two, it gives the other person something they deeply want, to be seen, to be heard, to be genuinely understood.
And ironically, by completely abandoning the effort to make them like you and focusing instead on understanding them, you become one of the most captivating people in the room.
That's the alchemy right there.
But here's the thing we have to be honest about. Philosophy alone won't do it. You cannot learn to swim by reading about water. At some point, you have to get in the pool.
You need exposure. You need to actually step into the situations that make you anxious. There's a clinical term for this, systematic desensitization, and it's one of the most well-researched approaches in psychology.
But the alchemist doesn't just throw themselves into the deep end blindly. They approach it with a structured intellectual framework. Think of it like running controlled experiments.
So before you walk into a social setting, you set a specific hypothesis. Something like, tonight, my only goal is to ask 3 people a question about their passions. And when the anxiety shows up, I will observe the sensation without trying to fight it.
And when the heart flutters and the throat tightens, you don't retreat, you lean in with clinical detachment. Ah, there's the cortisol spike. My palms are sweating. Interesting.
By removing the judgment from the physical sensation, you strip the fear of its power. The anxiety stops being a monster in the dark. It becomes a physiological data point, just information.
And after the social event, instead of spiraling into that brutal post-mortem where you replay every cringe-worthy moment, the alchemist does an analytical review. What went well? Where did anxiety peak? Did the catastrophe you were dreading actually happen? Treat your social life as an ongoing research project.
Steady, continuous growth. Not judgment, not shame, just data.
And now, what's the gold actually look like? Because I want to be clear about something. Intellectual calm is not coldness. It's not becoming detached or robotic.
It's actually the complete opposite. True intellectual calm is the foundation of the deepest, most authentic empathy. Because when your mind is no longer cluttered with the frantic, ego-driven questions, am I enough? Do they like me? You finally have the bandwidth to actually see the person standing in front of you.
You can read the micro-expressions, hear the subtle hesitation in someone's voice, notice the person in the corner who feels left out, and gently bring them into the fold.
And here's what I find most beautiful about all of this. Your past anxiety, the very thing you may have spent years wishing you could excise from your brain, it becomes your greatest asset. Because you've navigated those dark, chaotic waters yourself, you can recognize the quiet struggles of others. The hyper-awareness that used to torture you becomes a finely tuned instrument for emotional intelligence.
You are no longer a victim of the social current. You are quietly, calmly navigating it.
And I want to close with one last thing. This process, social alchemy, it's not a one-time transformation. It's a lifelong practice.
There will still be days when the lead feels heavy, when the old evolutionary alarms go off, when the shadow of self-doubt comes creeping back.
But the alchemist knows the goal was never to permanently banish fear. The goal was to change your relationship with it.
Social anxiety is not a life sentence. It's raw, unrefined energy. And through cognitive distancing, curiosity, and Stoic philosophy, you can reshape your entire mental landscape.
You transform the fear of judgment into the joy of discovery. You transmute the lead into gold, and you achieve intellectual calm not by escaping the world, but by finally, truly arriving in it.
That is social alchemy.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us today.
If this episode made you think, or if you've experienced your own version of this transformation, we would absolutely love to hear from you.
And one question before we go. What topic do you want us to cover next? Drop it in the comments. We read every single one.
Until next time, stay curious, stay calm. Bye, everyone.
See you soon.